Admiral Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, watching the stars shift as his fleet prepared to exit hyperspace. The diplomatic mission to Nexus Prime should have been routine. Ambassador Jinnah's peace talks with the outer colonies were important, but hardly dangerous. The Earth Defense Fleet had done dozens of these escort missions without trouble. "Exit in 30 seconds, Admiral," called Navigator Tae-ho from his station. The young officer had joined the fleet fresh from the academy, eager to see the galaxy, beyond Earth's solar system. Commander So-young checked her tactical display one more time. 3 human destroyers flanked the diplomatic vessel Harmony, while the Dauntless led the formation. Standard protection for a civilian transport. "All ships report ready, sir. The Harmony is maintaining position." Hyun-woo nodded. In 40 years of military service, he had learned to trust his instincts. Today, something felt wrong. The request for this meeting had come suddenly. The location, a neutral station on the edge of known space, seemed odd for peace talks. But the Galactic Council had insisted, and Earth's government wanted to show good faith. "Exit hyperspace now," Tae-ho announced. The familiar blue tunnel of hyperspace collapsed around them. Stars appeared, sharp and bright against the black of normal space. Nexus Prime's lights glowed in the distance, a small city floating in the void. "Admiral!" So-young's voice cracked with alarm. "I'm reading massive energy signatures, multiple contacts decloaking." The space around them erupted with alien ships. Dozens, then hundreds of Vorthak warships materialized from nowhere. Their dark hulls bristled with weapons, already charging for attack. The largest ship, easily 5 times the size of the Dauntless, bore the markings of a Vorthak battle fleet. "All ships, evasive action," Hyun-woo shouted. "Protect the Harmony." But it was too late. The trap had been perfectly set. Green energy beams lanced through space, striking the diplomatic ship first. The Harmony exploded in a ball of fire and debris. Ambassador Jinnah, her entire delegation, and the ship's crew of 60 died instantly. 200 souls, snuffed out in seconds. "No!" Tae-ho cried out, watching the burning wreckage drift past. The bridge windows. The Vorthak fleet opened fire on all targets. The human destroyers, Seoul and Busan, tried to form a defensive screen, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. Plasma bolts and missile volleys overwhelmed their shields. Captain Young-soo's destroyer Incheon lasted longest, its guns blazing defiance, until a Vorthak heavy cruiser cut it in half with a particle beam. "Shields failing," reported Chief Engineer Minho from below decks. "Hull breaches on levels 3 through 7. The Dauntless shook under enemy fire. Sparks flew from damaged consoles. The lights flickered as power systems struggled to maintain basic functions. Through the smoke and chaos, Hyun-woo could see his fleet dying around him. "Sir, we have to abandon ship," So-young said, blood running from a cut on her forehead. "The reactor containment is failing." "Launch all escape pods," Hyun-woo ordered. "Send the distress beacon. Someone needs to know what happened here." Tae-ho worked frantically at his station, encoding the battle data into a quantum message burst. "Beacon launched, Admiral. Earth will know." The crew rushed to the escape pods as the ship broke apart around them. Hyun-woo was among the last to leave, watching his command die as he sealed the pod hatch. The Dauntless had served humanity for 15 years. Now it was becoming another piece of wreckage in space. But the Vorthak weren't finished. As the escape pods drifted away from the burning ships, alien fighters swooped in like vultures. They hunted the small pods one by one, their weapons turning metal into vapor and humans into nothing. Hyun-woo's pod shook as fighter craft passed overhead. Through the small window, he watched other pods explode in bright flashes. His communications officer was in one of them, his weapons chief in another. Good people, loyal servants of Earth, murdered as they tried to escape. "Why?" So-young whispered from across the cramped pod. "Why would they do this?" The Admiral had no answer. The Vorthak had always been aggressive, but this was different. This was planned, coordinated. They had known exactly where the human fleet would be and when. A massive shadow fell across their pod. The Vorthak flagship, its hull scarred by battle but otherwise undamaged, moved into position above the wreckage. A voice boomed across all communication channels, speaking in perfect human English. "I am Admiral Kreshatar of the Vorthak Empire," the alien commander announced. "The Galactic Council's newest members have been educated about their place in the galaxy. Humanity's expansion ends here." The words hit like physical blows. The Galactic Council, Earth's supposed allies, the advanced civilizations that had welcomed humanity into the galactic community just 50 years ago. They had arranged this massacre. "Survivors will be collected as evidence of Vorthak mercy," Kreshtar continued. "Your people will learn that there are consequences for reaching too far, too fast." Tractor beams seized the few remaining escape pods. Of the 8,000 humans who had entered this system, only 12 would leave alive. Hyunwoo counted the pods being pulled into Vorthak cargo holds, 12 witnesses to the greatest betrayal in human history. As his pod was dragged into the alien ship's dark interior, Hyunwoo stared back at the wreckage of his fleet. The Harmony, the Soul, the Busan, the Incheon, his beloved Dauntless, all reduced to cooling metal and expanding gas clouds. But something burned inside him, hotter than the dying reactors of his ships. This wasn't just an attack. It was a message. The galaxy's older races had decided that humanity was growing too strong, too fast. They had used the Vorthak as their weapon to cut down the upstart humans before they became a real threat. They thought they were teaching humans a lesson about power and place. They thought fear would make humanity obedient, grateful for whatever scraps the galaxy's masters chose to throw them. They had made a terrible mistake. As the Vorthak ship jumped into hyperspace, carrying its prisoners toward an uncertain fate, Hyunwoo made a silent promise. Earth would learn what happened here. His people would understand that mercy was seen as weakness, that trust was rewarded with betrayal, and when humanity's response came, the galaxy would learn what happened when you cornered a predator species and killed its children. The stars disappeared into the blue tunnel of hyperspace, but the fire of vengeance burned bright in the Admiral's heart. This was not the end of humanity's story. It was just the beginning of the galaxy's nightmare. The aliens thought they had sent a message of dominance. Instead, they had signed their own death warrant. Earth would remember this day, and the galaxy would pay the price for teaching humanity that in the depths of space, only the ruthless survived. The Vorthak prison transport emerged from hyperspace 3 weeks later, its hull bearing scorch marks from the battle at Nexus Prime. Captain Young-Soo pressed his face against the small window of the holding cell, watching Earth grow larger as they approached. Home looked exactly the same as when he had left it, but everything had changed. 12 humans had survived the massacre. 12 out of 8,000. The Vorthak had kept them alive as proof of their mercy, a gesture of goodwill to show the galaxy that they were reasonable conquerors. Admiral Hyunwoo sat in the corner of the cell, his uniform torn and stained, his eyes burning with quiet fury. "Earth Control, this is Vorthak Transport Dominion," the alien captain's voice echoed through the ship's speakers. "We return your people as promised. Consider this a lesson in galactic reality." The transport docked with Luna Station. Earth's security forces boarded immediately, weapons drawn and ready for treachery. But the Vorthak made no aggressive moves. They simply transferred their human prisoners and departed, leaving behind only the stench of their presence and the weight of their message. President Eun-ji waited in the station's medical bay as the survivors underwent treatment. She was a small woman with steel in her eyes, elected 2 years ago on promises of peaceful expansion into the galaxy. Now she watched the broken remnants of humanity's trust being wheeled past on medical gurneys. "Admiral," she said, as Hyunwoo approached, refusing the wheelchair offered by the medical staff. "Tell me what happened." Defense Minister Dong Hyun stood beside her, his face grim. Behind them waited Intelligence Director Mi Ran, a quiet woman whose network of spies and informants reached across known space. They had been preparing for this moment since the first distress signal reached Earth. Hyunwoo straightened despite his injuries. "We were betrayed, Madam President. This wasn't a random attack. The Vorthak knew exactly where we would be and when. They knew our shield frequencies, our formation patterns, everything." "The quantum beacon data confirms it," Miran said, activating a holographic display. "The Vorthak fleet was positioned perfectly for an ambush. They had been waiting in that system for days, maybe weeks. Someone gave them detailed intelligence about our mission." President Yoonji studied the tactical data. The attack pattern was too precise, too coordinated for chance. "Who had access to the mission details?" "The Galactic Council," Dong-hyun replied, his voice tight with anger. "They insisted on the meeting location. They provided the security, clearances. They knew our entire flight plan." Commander So-young, her head bandaged but her voice clear, stepped forward. "Admiral Kreshatar said something during the attack. He called it education about humanity's place in the galaxy. He said our expansion ends there." Miran's expression darkened. "We've been monitoring galactic communications since the attack. 3 days ago, our deep space listening posts intercepted coded transmissions between the Vorthak High Command and the Council chambers on Kethmore Prime. The intelligence director activated another display showing intercepted message fragments. The alien text scrolled past, followed by translated versions. The words made President Yoonji's blood run cold. "The human threat grows beyond acceptable parameters," read one message from Council Speaker Veltaran. "Their technological advancement exceeds all projections. In 50 years, they have achieved what took most species 5 centuries. Another message from Vorthak Admiral Kreshtar. "The demonstration is prepared. The humans will learn their limitations. The galaxy will see that rapid expansion has consequences." 847 council members voted in favor of the operation, Miran continued. "Only 3 opposed it. They called it containment of an emerging threat. They called it education." The room fell silent. For 50 years, since first contact with the Galactic Council, humanity had worked to build relationships with the older races. Earth's children had spread to dozens of worlds, establishing colonies and trade routes. Human technology and adaptability had impressed even ancient civilizations. But that success had bred fear. The galaxy's established powers, comfortable in their ancient hierarchies, had watched humanity's rise with growing alarm. Young upstarts with primitive ships and crude weapons were expanding too fast, achieving too much, threatening the cosmic order that had existed for millennia. "They planned genocide," President Yoonji said quietly. "They used the Vorthak to murder our people and destroy our fleet." "It gets worse," Miran said. "According to our intelligence, this was just the first phase. The Council planned to use the attack as justification for trade sanctions, technology restrictions, and territorial limits. They wanted to cage humanity before we became too powerful to control." Captain Young-soo, the highest-ranking military survivor after Admiral Hyunwoo, spoke up. "Madam President, what are your orders?" Yoonji looked at the faces around her. These people had trusted the galaxy's older races. They had believed in peaceful coexistence and mutual benefit. That naive faith had died at Nexus Prime, along with 8,000 human souls. "Director Myran, I want every intelligence asset activated. I want to know everything about Council military capabilities, political structures, and economic systems. I want their weaknesses mapped and their strengths cataloged." "Yes, Madam President." "Minister Dong-hyun, begin immediate mobilization of all military reserves. Contact the colonial governments. Tell them what happened and what it means." "Earth is going to war." "Understood." "Admiral Hyunwoo, I'm placing you in command of Operation Starfall. You have unlimited resources and complete authority over military planning. I want options, Admiral. I want the means to make them pay." The Admiral's eyes burned with cold fire. They wanted to teach us about our place in the galaxy. They wanted us afraid and compliant. They have gravely miscalculated what happens when you corner a predator species. President Yoon-ji walked to the observation window, looking out at Earth's blue surface far below. Somewhere down there, families were beginning to receive notification that their loved ones would never come home. Children were learning that their parents had died not in honorable battle, but in calculated murder. They think they know humanity, she said, her voice carrying to every person in the room. They think we're just another young race to be managed and controlled. They're about to learn that when you strike at humanity, you had better kill us all. She turned back to face her advisors, and they saw something terrible in her expression. The galaxy had awakened something in humanity that had slept since their species first climbed down from the trees. The civilized veneer was cracking, revealing the predator beneath. Because if you don't kill us all, we will hunt you across the stars until nothing remains but the memory of your civilization. The meeting ended with quiet efficiency. Orders were given, resources allocated, and plans set in motion. The Galactic Council had wanted to send humanity a message about power and place. They were about to receive a reply that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. The orbital shipyards above Earth had never seen activity like this. General Seung-min stood on the command platform of Luna Construction Station, watching hundreds of vessels take shape in the massive construction bays. Sparks flew from welding, torches as workers labored around the clock. The peaceful merchant ships and exploration vessels that once rolled out of these facilities were gone, replaced by something far more sinister. Production is ahead of schedule, reported Chief Engineer Kang Ho, reviewing the holographic displays that showed construction progress across the solar system. The new automated systems are working perfectly. We're completing one destroyer every 6 days, one cruiser every 12 days. Operation Starfall had transformed human civilization in just 6 months. Every available resource had been redirected toward military production. The asteroid belt buzzed with mining operations, feeding raw materials to the hungry shipyards. Mars had become a massive weapons factory. Even Earth's moon housed new military installations. The Titan facility is ready to begin dreadnought construction, Kang Ho continued. Admiral Junho's specifications are ambitious, but feasible. Seung-min nodded, studying the technical readouts. The new human warships bore little resemblance to their predecessors. Gone were the sleek, efficient designs meant for exploration and trade. These vessels were built for one purpose: overwhelming destruction. Thick armor plating, redundant systems, and massive weapon arrays made them look more like flying fortresses than starships. "What about Project Prometheus?" he asked. Dr. Hya-jin approached from the research section, her lab coat stained with chemicals and her eyes bright with scientific fervor. The xenobiology expert had thrown herself into reverse engineering captured alien technology with frightening enthusiasm. "We've made breakthrough after breakthrough," she reported. "Human neural architecture is remarkably adaptable. We can interface with alien computer systems in ways their creators never intended. Their own technology can be turned against them." She activated a demonstration unit, showing how human brain patterns could override alien security protocols. Most galactic species have rigid thought processes, evolved for specific environmental niches. Humans are generalists. Our minds are chaotic enough to confuse their systems, flexible enough to adapt to their interfaces. General Seung-min watched the display with satisfaction. The galaxy's older races had mistaken human adaptability for primitive simplicity. They were about to learn the difference between sophisticated and effective. Admiral Junho emerged from the shipyard planning center, his uniform bearing the new insignia of the human war fleet. The traditional Earth Defense Force had been disbanded, replaced by something designed for conquest rather than protection. "The dreadnought designs are finalized," he announced. 18 kilometers long, 12 kilometers wide, armed with quantum torpedo arrays and plasma lance batteries, each one Carries enough firepower to sterilize a planet. How many can we build? Seung-min asked. With current production capacity, 50 units within 18 months. But that's just the beginning. The colonial shipyards are coming online, and the captured Vorthak facilities on the Outer Rim will be converted to our specifications. Intelligence Director Mi-Ran joined the group, her expression unreadable as always. Our deep cover operations are proceeding better than expected. Human agents have successfully infiltrated 17 major alien governments, 43 corporate entities, and 12 military commands. She activated a galactic map, showing red dots scattered across known space. The galaxy's species are remarkably naive about infiltration. They expect aliens to look alien. A human with basic cosmetic surgery and behavioral training can pass as almost any humanoid species. The red dots pulsed steadily, each one representing a human agent living a false life among alien populations. Merchants, bureaucrats, technicians, even military officers, all secretly loyal to Earth and feeding intelligence back to Mi-Ran's network. The Galactic Council continues to monitor our activities, she continued. They interpret our military buildup as primitive aggression. They believe our anger will fade with time, that we'll eventually accept our designated place in their hierarchy. General Seung-min smiled grimly. Let them think that. When we're ready, their first indication of danger will be human fleets appearing in their home systems. Dr. Hai-Jin pulled up another display, this one showing biological research data. We've also made progress on the organic warfare front. Each alien species has unique physiological vulnerabilities. Viruses that are harmless to humans can be devastating to other races. The implications hung in the air like poison. The galaxy had taught humanity that mercy was weakness, that trust was foolishness. Now Earth's scientists were learning to wage war on a cellular level, creating plagues that could target specific alien genetic markers while leaving humans untouched. The moral implications, Admiral Junho began, then stopped himself. The time for moral considerations had ended at Nexus Prime, buried under the wreckage of the diplomatic ship Harmony. The galaxy operates by predator rules, Mi-Ran said quietly. The strong dominate the weak. The clever survive while the naive perish. They taught us these lessons. It would be foolish not to learn them. Production reports continued to flow in from across the solar system. Weapons manufactories on Europa produced antimatter warheads. The research stations on Io developed new targeting systems that could track enemies across multiple dimensions. Even Earth's peaceful agricultural colonies had been converted to support the war effort. The Galactic Council's intelligence services, sophisticated though they were, failed to grasp the true scope of human preparation. They saw military construction and assumed barbaric response to injury. They observed weapons testing and concluded that humanity was lashing out in blind rage. They didn't understand that every hammer blow in the shipyards was calculated. Every new weapon system was precisely designed. Every strategic decision was made with cold, methodical planning. Humanity wasn't having an emotional breakdown. They were preparing for systematic extermination of their enemies. Status report on the outer colonies, Seung-min requested. Full cooperation, Admiral Junho replied. New Seoul has converted all civilian shipyards to military production. The mining colonies in the Kepler system are providing rare metals for armor plating. Even the agricultural worlds are contributing food supplies for extended military campaigns. The transformation was complete. Humanity had changed from a peaceful, exploring species into something darker. The galaxy's betrayal had awakened instincts. That civilization had kept buried for millennia. Now those predatory drives were focused with technological precision and industrial might. Dr. Hai-Jin sealed the biological research data with encrypted protocols. The weapon systems will be ready within 8 months. When we deploy them, entire alien species could be extinct within weeks. Good, General Seung-min said simply. They wanted to teach us about consequences. They're about to receive an education. in cause and effect. The meeting ended with quiet efficiency, each participant returning to their specific area of preparation. Above them, the shipyards continued their work, building humanity's future one weapon at a time. The galaxy had made a species of explorers into a race of conquerors. Soon they would harvest what they had sown. The Vorthak invasion fleet emerged from hyperspace with the confidence of predators approaching helpless prey. Admiral Kreshatar stood on the bridge of his flagship Dominator, studying the agricultural world of New Sol through the tactical display. 50 million human colonists worked the fertile plains below, growing food that fed a dozen star systems. "The humans have made no attempt to fortify this world," reported his tactical officer. "Our intelligence indicates minimal defensive capabilities. A few orbital platforms, some civilian security vessels." Kreshatar's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. 6 months had passed since the lesson at Nexus Prime, and the humans still hadn't learned their place. Their continued expansion into Vorthak territory was an insult that demanded correction. The Galactic Council had given him permission to claim New Sol as compensation for human aggression. "Begin planetary bombardment," he ordered. "Target the major population centers first. Let them watch their cities burn before we land ground forces." The Vorthak fleet moved into attack formation. 300 warships, veterans of a dozen conquered worlds, prepared to add another victory to their record. Green energy weapons charged as missile batteries loaded their deadly cargo. But space around New Sol was not empty. "Admiral!" The sensor operator's voice cracked with alarm. "Multiple contacts decloaking, human warships bearing 27 Mark IV. The tactical display exploded with red symbols as Admiral Chang Min's task force materialized from behind the planet's moons. 40 human vessels, their hulls bristling with weapons, emerged from perfect concealment. The sleek exploration ships the Vorthak remembered were gone, replaced by brutal war machines designed for close combat. "Impossible," Kreshatar hissed. "Our intelligence showed no significant human fleet in this sector." Admiral Chang Min's voice echoed across all communication frequencies, calm and deadly. "Vorthak fleet, you have entered human space with hostile intent. Surrender now and you will be granted quick deaths." The Vorthak commander laughed, his alien vocal cords producing a sound like grinding metal. "Primitive humans dare threaten the Vorthak Empire? You learned nothing from Nexus Prime." "We learned everything from Nexus Prime," Chang Min replied. "We learned that the galaxy respects only strength. We learned that mercy is seen as weakness. Thank you for the education." The human fleet attacked without further warning. Captain Boram commanded the destroyer Vengeance, one of the new warships built specifically for this moment. Her crew had trained for months in the brutal tactics that human military theorists had developed. No elegant maneuvers, no prolonged engagement, just overwhelming violence applied with surgical precision. "All weapons, target the flagship," she ordered. "Ram velocity on my mark." The Vengeance accelerated directly toward the Dominator, her quantum torpedoes tearing through Vorthak defensive screens. Other human ships followed similar attack patterns, closing to point-blank range where their heavy armor and redundant systems gave them decisive advantages. Vorthak energy weapons, designed for long-range elegant dueling, proved inadequate against human warships built like armored rams. The aliens had evolved their military traditions from a culture that valued individual combat prowess. Humans had evolved theirs from pack hunters who coordinated to bring down much larger prey. "Hull breaches on multiple decks," reported Chief Engineer Sung Ho from the Vengeance. "But all critical systems remain operational." Captain Boram smiled grimly. Human ships were designed to absorb damage and keep fighting. Each vessel carried multiple backup systems, armored compartments, and redundant life support. They could lose half their hull and still remain combat effective. The Vorthak fleet found itself caught in a trap of their own making. Their formation, perfect for bombarding a helpless planet, became a liability when human ships closed to ramming distance. Changmin's tactical planning had anticipated every aspect of Vorthak doctrine. "Target their command vessel," the admiral ordered from his flagship Retribution. "Cut off their head and the body dies." Plasma lances and particle beams converged on the Dominator. Kreshatar's mighty flagship, terror of a dozen worlds, shuddered under the focused assault. Her shields collapsed, her armor buckled, and her weapon systems went offline one by one. "We're being boarded," the Vorthak security chief reported. "Human Marines are cutting through our hull." Lieutenant Min Su led the boarding party through the breached sections of the alien ship. His combat armor was designed for zero gravity, fighting in damaged vessels. Behind him, 20 human Marines moved with practiced efficiency, their weapons adapted for shipboard combat. The Vorthak crew, brave enough when slaughtering helpless civilians, proved less effective against armed humans in close quarters. Their elegant energy weapons were useless in the cramped corridors of their own ship. Human projectile weapons and blade attachments turned the interior of the Dominator into a slaughterhouse. Captain Boram made her final decision as Vorthak reinforcements arrived to support their flagship. "All hands, prepare for impact. Engineering, overload the fusion reactors." "Captain, that will destroy us too," Sung-Ho protested. "I know," she replied calmly. "Signal the fleet. Tell them this is for the Harmony." The Vengeance rammed directly into the Dominator's bridge section, her fusion reactors going critical at the moment of impact. The explosion tore through both ships, vaporizing the Vorthak command staff and crippling their entire battle network. Admiral Changmin watched the sacrifice from his command ship, his face carved from stone. "All units, execute Tactical Plan 7. No survivors." The human fleet moved through the Vorthak formation like sharks through a school of fish. Each engagement was brief and brutal. Human captains showed no interest in elegant space combat or honorable dueling. They concentrated fire, overwhelmed individual targets, and moved on to the next victim. Captain Jae-sung of the cruiser Seoul trapped a Vorthak heavy destroyer between his ship and the planet's gravity well. The alien vessel, damaged and trying to escape, found itself caught between human weapons and the inexorable pull of New Seoul's mass. "They're requesting surrender terms," his communications officer reported. "Denied," Jae-sung replied without hesitation. "Continue firing until there's space dust." The Vorthak destroyer died, screaming across the radio frequencies, her crew's final transmissions echoing the terror they had once inflicted on others. There would be no prisoners, no mercy, no quarter given. The humans had learned their lesson well. Within 4 hours, the battle was over. 300 Vorthak warships had entered the New Sol system. None left. The space around the agricultural world was filled with expanding clouds of debris and cooling metal, all that remained of Admiral Kreshatar's mighty fleet. Admiral Changmin stood in the communications center of his flagship, looking directly into the camera that would broadcast his message across the galaxy. Behind him, the wreckage of the Vorthak fleet drifted like cosmic garbage. "This is Admiral Changmin of the Human War Fleet," he began, his voice carrying the weight of absolute conviction. "6 months ago, the Galactic Council arranged the massacre of human diplomats and military personnel. They thought they were teaching us about our place in the galaxy." He gestured toward the destruction visible through the bridge windows. "This is our reply. Every Vorthak ship that entered this system has been destroyed. Every alien who participated in the slaughter of our people is dead. This is what happens when you mistake human restraint for weakness." The message would reach every inhabited world in the galaxy within days. For the first time in millennia, a young species had annihilated one of the Council's enforcement fleets. The established order of galactic civilization had received its first serious challenge. "The Galactic Council declared war on humanity when they betrayed our trust," Changmin continued. "Now they will learn why our ancestors survived when larger. Stronger predators did not. We adapt. We endure, we remember, and we never, ever forgive. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. The age of human restraint was over. The age of human vengeance had begun. President Yoon-ji stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council, her image transmitted across thousands of light-years to the ancient chambers on Kethmore Prime. The assembled representatives of 800 civilizations watched, in uncomfortable silence as the human leader prepared to address them directly. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice carrying the cold precision of a surgeon's blade. "1 year ago, you welcomed humanity into your galactic community. You spoke of peace, cooperation, and mutual benefit. We believed your words." Council Speaker Veltaran, his crystalline form glowing with agitation, interrupted. The recent unpleasantness was a regrettable escalation of border tensions. The Vorthak acted without council authorization. "Lies," Yoon-ji replied simply. "Our intelligence services have intercepted your communications. We know about the vote. 847 in favor of containing the human threat. Only 3 opposed. You planned our extermination down to the smallest detail." A ripple of discomfort passed through the council chambers. For millennia, the older races had manipulated younger species without consequence. None had ever possessed the technological sophistication to expose their machinations. "You declared war on humanity when you betrayed our trust," the president continued. "You used the Vorthak as your weapon to murder our people and destroy our fleet. Now you will learn why your ancestors crawled into caves when the apex predators hunted." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the council in stunned silence. Within hours, human fleets began appearing in Vorthak space, striking with a precision and brutality that shocked the galaxy. Captain In-Su commanded the wolf pack that hit the Vorthak naval base at Korvax Station. His squadron of 12 destroyers materialized from hyperspace in perfect formation, their weapons already charged and targeting systems locked on. "Remember the rules," he transmitted to his captains. "No survivors, no prisoners, no mercy. They wanted to teach us about consequences." The orbital fortress that guarded Korvax had protected Vorthak space lanes for 3 centuries. Its massive guns and particle shields had deterred countless enemies. Against human tactics, it lasted 17 minutes. The wolf pack attacked from 6 different vectors, overwhelming the station's defensive capabilities. When the guns turned to track one ship, others struck from blind spots. When the shields focused on forward attacks, human vessels hit from behind and below. Lieutenant Cho Hee led the boarding teams that carved through the station's hull like surgeons through flesh. Her Marines moved with mechanical efficiency. Their training focused on one objective: complete elimination of enemy personnel. "Medical bay secured," she reported. "No survivors." "Engineering section cleared," came another report. "Reactor cores set for overload." "Command center taken. All senior staff eliminated." Within an hour, Korvax Station was the expanding ball of superheated gas. 3,000 Vorthak military personnel died without managing to send a distress signal. Captain In-Su's wolf pack was already jumping to hyperspace, heading for their next target. The pattern repeated across Vorthak space. Human fleets struck with calculated precision, targeting military installations, supply depots, and shipyards. But these weren't conquests, they were exterminations. Dr. Hae-jin's Biological Warfare Division had distributed their weapons throughout the human fleet. Viral agents, carefully engineered to target Vorthak physiology while remaining harmless to humans, began appearing on alien worlds. Colony Administrator Yong-sik received reports from Vorthak civilian settlements with growing satisfaction. The plague his research teams had developed was performing exactly as designed. Alien colonists sickened and died within days, while human populations remained unaffected. "The pathogen has achieved 97% effectiveness," he reported, to Earth Command. Vorthak colonies are experiencing complete societal collapse. Their medical facilities cannot treat diseases they've never encountered. On the industrial world of Thakmor, 8 million Vorthak civilians perished in 6 weeks. The symptoms appeared random at first, a mysterious illness affecting only one species. By the time alien medical teams realized they were dealing with engineered biological warfare, it was too late to develop countermeasures. Human observers, disguised as refugees from other conflicts, documented the collapse with clinical detachment. Intelligence Director Miran's agents had infiltrated even civilian populations, ensuring that human biological weapons reached their intended targets. The Galactic Council watched in growing horror as one of their enforcement species faced systematic extinction. Desperate messages flooded the communication networks, calling for intervention, assistance, anything to stop the human rampage. But the older races discovered that millennium of political maneuvering had left them unprepared for actual warfare. Their fleets were designed for intimidation and enforcement, not combat against an enemy that fought to exterminate rather than conquer. Admiral Hyun Woo, recovered from his injuries and commanding the largest human battle group, struck at the Vorthak homeworld itself. His fleet of 200 ships emerged from hyperspace in the outer system, their weapons trained on the cradle of Vorthak civilization. "This world birthed the species that murdered our diplomats," he announced to his captains. "Their children will learn what happens when you teach humans about consequences." The orbital defenses of Vorthak Prime were formidable. Massive battle stations ringed the planet, their weapons capable of destroying entire fleets. But human tactical doctrine had evolved beyond conventional fleet engagement. Instead of attacking the defenses directly, Hyunwoo deployed the new quantum mines that Dr. Haijin's research teams had developed. The weapons, invisible to Vorthak sensors, drifted through the defensive grid like ghosts. When they detonated simultaneously, the explosion created a cascade reaction that overloaded every piece of alien technology in the system. Defense platforms went dark. Orbital facilities lost power. Even the planetary communication grid collapsed under the electromagnetic pulse. "Begin bombardment," Admiral Hyun-woo ordered. "Target military installations first, then industrial centers. Leave the civilian populations for the biological agents." The human fleet rained destruction on Vorthak Prime for 3 days. Military academies, weapons factories, shipyards, and government buildings vanished in balls of nuclear fire. When the bombardment ended, Vorthak civilization had been reduced to pre-industrial levels. Dr. Haijin's plague finished what the fleet had started. Within months, the proud Vorthak Empire existed only in historical records. Their colonies lay empty. Their fleets drifted as derelict hulks. Their homeworld had become a tomb. The galaxy reacted with shock and terror. In less than a year, humanity had demonstrated that they could destroy an entire spacefaring civilization, the young species that the Council had dismissed as primitive. Upstarts had proven themselves capable of genocide on a galactic scale, but the humans were just beginning. Captain Insu's wolf packs had expanded their hunting grounds beyond Vorthak space. Any alien military vessel encountered in human territory was destroyed without warning. Trade routes that had operated safely for centuries became graveyards of burned metal and expanding debris clouds. "We are receiving surrender offers from 17 Vorthak colony governments," reported Communications Officer Park Jin from the command ship Retribution. "Rejected," Admiral Hyunwoo replied without hesitation. "There are no surrender terms. There is no negotiation. They wanted to teach us that mercy is weakness. They succeeded." The message was clear to every intelligence service in the galaxy. Humanity had learned the lesson that the Galactic Council tried to teach. In the depths of space, only the ruthless survived. The older races had awakened something terrible in their attempt to contain human expansion. Now that predator was loose, among the stars, and it was hungry for vengeance. President Yun-ji's final transmission to the Galactic Council was brief and terrifying in its simplicity. The Vorthak Empire no longer exists. They paid the price for your lesson. Who among you would like to be next? The Galactic Council's emergency war room had never hosted such a gathering. Representatives from 17 different species crowded around the tactical displays, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and harmonic tones. High Admiral Thesakari of the Hegemony Fleet stood at the center, his forearms gesturing at the holographic star maps. The human expansion must be stopped here, he declared, indicating the Kepler Nebula system. If they break through this choke point, they'll have direct access to the core worlds. Council Speaker Veltaran's crystalline form pulsed with agitated energy. 12,000 ships, Admiral. Surely that's sufficient to handle one primitive species. The Hegemony commander's mandibles clicked with frustration. Primitive? They annihilated the Vorthak Empire in 6 months. 3 billion aliens dead. Every colony sterilized, their homeworld turned into a graveyard. These humans fight like nothing we've encountered before. Intelligence Director Keth Mara activated another display, showing the tactical analysis of human combat doctrine. They don't fight to conquer or subjugate. They fight to exterminate. Every engagement ends with complete destruction of enemy forces. No survivors, no prisoners, no mercy. Admiral Hyun-woo received the intelligence reports in his command center, aboard the Retribution. The Galactic Council had assembled the largest military force in recorded history to stop humanity's advance. 12,000 ships from 17 different species, all united in their determination to contain the human threat. They still don't understand, he told his staff officers. They think this is about territory or resources. They think we can be negotiated with, contained, managed like any other species. Commander So Young, promoted to Fleet Tactical Officer after surviving Nexus Prime, studied the enemy formation data. The Hegemony Fleet is using Standard Council doctrine. Multiple species with different capabilities coordinated through their Central Command Network. Weaknesses? Admiral Hyun-woo asked. Communication delays between species with different technology standards, conflicting tactical priorities. Most importantly, they're fighting to maintain order. We're fighting for survival. The human expeditionary force was significantly outnumbered. 800 ships against 12,000 seemed like hopeless odds, but Admiral Hyun-woo had learned valuable lessons from humanity's history. Sometimes the smaller, more aggressive predator could bring down much larger prey. The Battle of Kepler Nebula began when the Hegemony Fleet detected human ships on long-range sensors. High Admiral Thesakari deployed his forces in a massive envelopment formation, confident that superior numbers would overwhelm human resistance. Target their command ship first, he ordered. Cut off their leadership and the rest will surrender. The alien commander had never faced an enemy that used their command structure as bait. Admiral Hyun-woo positioned the Retribution at the center of his formation, broadcasting constantly on all frequencies to make his flagship easy to target. When the Hegemony forces concentrated their fire on his position, the rest of the human fleet struck from unexpected directions. Captain Ye Jin commanded the assault cruiser Indomitable, one of the new ships built specifically for boarding operations. Her vessel carried no long-range weapons, just heavy armor and cutting tools designed to breach alien hulls. Target acquired, she reported as her ship accelerated toward a Keth Mori super-dreadnought. Beginning boarding approach. The alien vessel, larger than any human ship, bristled with defensive weapons. But its crew had never faced enemies crazy enough to ram their ships directly into capital ships 3 times their size. The Indomitable punched through the super-dreadnought's hull like a spear through paper. Commander Ye Jin led her Marines into the alien ship's interior, fighting through corridors designed for creatures twice human size. Engineering secured, reported Sergeant Dalho. Their reactor containment is based on crystalline matrices. Very pretty, very fragile. Plant the charges, Yejin ordered. 5-minute fuses. We're taking this ship with us. The super dreadnought exploded from within, its exotic matter reactors creating a cascade failure that destroyed 6 nearby alien vessels. Commander Yejin and her crew died in the blast, but their sacrifice eliminated an entire wing of the hegemony fleet. Similar scenarios played out across the battlefield. Human ships, designed for close combat and ramming attacks, carved through alien formations like wolves among sheep. Each human captain had trained for this moment, studying alien technology and tactics until they knew their enemy's weaknesses better than their strengths. The Zenthari Republic's contribution to the hegemony fleet consisted of elegant, energy-based vessels that relied on precision targeting and superior technology. Captain Wu Sung's destroyer squadron showed them the effectiveness of human innovation. "Deploy the quantum scramblers," he ordered as his ships closed with the Zenthari formation. The new devices, reverse-engineered from captured alien technology, created localized disruptions in the energy fields that powered Zenthari weapons. Their sophisticated targeting systems, dependent on exotic physics, became useless in seconds. "Now show them how humans fight," Wu Sung commanded. His destroyers, their hulls scarred by enemy fire but their weapons still functional, tore through the disabled Zenthari ships like chainsaws through silk. The elegant alien vessels, designed for long-range dueling, had no defense against point-blank bombardment. High Admiral Thesakari watched his carefully planned battle dissolve into chaos. Every tactical doctrine developed over millennia of galactic warfare proved useless against human adaptability. They ignored conventional rules of engagement, used their own ships as weapons, and showed no concern for their own survival. "They're not fighting to win," his tactical officer observed with growing horror. "They're fighting to kill as many of us as possible before they die." "Request immediate reinforcements from the reserve fleets," Thesakari ordered, "and send a priority message to the Council. These humans are unlike anything we've encountered." But Admiral Hyun Woo had anticipated the alien commander's response. Human intelligence agents, embedded throughout the galactic communication network, intercepted the distress calls before they could reach their destinations. Agent Kai-Tae had spent 3 years establishing his cover identity as a Zenthari communications technician. His sabotage of the hegemony fleet's quantum relay network left them isolated and unable to call for help. "Communication blackout confirmed," he reported through encrypted channels. "They're fighting blind and alone." The battle raged for 18 hours. When it ended, the space around Kepler Nebula was filled with the wreckage of the largest military fleet in galactic history. 12,000 ships had entered the system. Less than 300 escaped. Admiral Hyun Woo stood on the bridge of his battered flagship, surveying the destruction through the observation windows. Half his fleet was gone, but they had achieved something unprecedented. A young species had defeated the combined military might of the galaxy's oldest civilizations. "Send the recordings to Earth," he ordered, "and broadcast them on all galactic frequencies. Let every species see what happens when they threaten humanity." The footage of the battle reached every inhabited world within days. The images were undeniable. Human ships, outnumbered 15 to 1, systematically destroying an armada that should have been unstoppable. Fear spread through the galactic community like a plague. If the hegemony fleet couldn't stop human expansion, what could? Species that had existed for millions of years began to question their fundamental assumptions about power and civilization. The Galactic Council's emergency session lasted for days, but no consensus emerged. Some members called for immediate surrender. Others demanded the activation of ancient weapons that hadn't been used for millennia. All of them understood that the galaxy had changed forever. Humanity was no longer the junior species seeking acceptance. They had become the apex predator, and every other civilization was now prey. President Yoonji's message to the Council was brief and final. "You taught us that in this galaxy only strength matters. You taught us that mercy is weakness and trust. is foolishness. Thank you for the education. Now live with the consequences. Deep beneath the surface of Kethmore Prime, in chambers that predated most galactic civilizations, the Galactic Council's inner circle gathered around their most terrible secret. The Genesis Array had slumbered for 50,000 years, built by the first spacefaring races as the ultimate deterrent against cosmic threats. Council Speaker Veltarin's crystalline form flickered with desperate energy as he addressed the assembled representatives. The human plague spreads unchecked. They have destroyed 17 military fleets, sterilized 43 worlds, and their agents have infiltrated our core systems. Conventional warfare has failed. Ancient keeper Zethmoros, whose species had helped construct the Genesis Array, spoke in harmonics that translated as deep reluctance. The weapon was designed for extinction-level threats. Rogue artificial intelligences, reality-altering parasites, entities that threaten the fundamental structure of existence. Are we certain that humans qualify? They have demonstrated the capacity for total warfare, replied Warmind Kessithera, her mechanical voice echoing through the chamber. Their tactics indicate a willingness to commit genocide on a galactic scale. If allowed to continue, they will systematically exterminate every non-human species. High Admiral Thesakari, one of the few survivors of the Kepler Nebula massacre, activated the tactical displays showing human fleet movements. Their expansion follows no recognizable pattern. They're not conquering territory or claiming resources. They're hunting us. Every contact results in complete destruction of our forces. The Genesis Array's control chamber hummed with ancient power as systems that had remained dormant for millennia slowly came online. The weapon was a testament to the galaxy's first civilizations, capable of targeting any star system and reducing it to cosmic dust within minutes. But unknown to the Council's inner circle, Agent Wu Jin had been monitoring their activities for 3 years. His cover identity as a Kethmori maintenance technician had given him access to the most classified facilities on the homeworld. Every discussion, every security protocol, every activation sequence had been recorded and transmitted. To Intelligence Director Miran, "Target coordinates confirmed," announced the Array's operating system in a voice older than human civilization. "Sol system locked. Estimated sterilization time, 47 minutes. Veltarin's form pulsed with grim satisfaction. "Initiate the sequence. End this threat before it spreads beyond containment." The Genesis Array's massive generators began their charging cycle, drawing power from the planet's core. Energy readings spiked across Kethmore Prime as the ancient weapon prepared to reduce Earth and its solar system to lifeless matter. Wu Jin worked frantically in the maintenance tunnels beneath the Array's primary control center. His tools, ostensibly, for routine equipment servicing, included several devices that Dr. Hyejin's research teams had designed specifically for this moment. "Quantum targeting matrix accessed," he whispered into his encrypted communicator. "Beginning reprogramming sequence." The Genesis Array's targeting system was sophisticated beyond human understanding, but Agent Wu Jin had studied its operation for years. His modifications were subtle, changing just a few critical parameters in the weapon's coordinate database. 3 years of preparation came down to 17 minutes of desperate technical work. Sweat dripped from his forehead as he rerouted targeting, protocols, and modified firing sequences. One mistake would trigger security alerts that would expose his identity and doom his mission. "Targeting modification complete," he reported as the weapon's charging cycle reached critical levels. "Sol system coordinates changed to Council Homeworld database. They're about to target themselves." President Yunji stood in Earth situation, room surrounded by her military and intelligence leadership. The Genesis Array's energy signature was visible to human sensor networks throughout the galaxy, its power readings unlike anything in recorded history. "Estimated time to impact?" she asked Admiral Hyun-woo, who had returned to Earth for emergency consultations. 32 minutes, he replied grimly. If Agent Wu Jin's sabotage fails, the solar system will be destroyed before our fleets can reach Council space. Intelligence Director Miran monitored the communication frequencies from Kethmore Prime, listening as the Council prepared to commit the ultimate act of genocide. They're calling it necessary sterilization of a galactic threat. They've convinced themselves that humanity's extinction is a moral imperative. The irony was perfect. The Galactic Council, in their desperation to destroy humanity, was about to demonstrate exactly why humans had become so ruthless. They were proving that mercy truly was weakness, that negotiation was pointless, that only complete victory mattered. Genesis Array at maximum charge, announced the ancient targeting system. Firing in 60 seconds. Council Speaker Veltaran watched the countdown with satisfaction. In 1 minute, the human threat would be eliminated forever. The galaxy would return to the stable, peaceful order that had existed for millennia. 30 seconds to firing, the system continued. Target lock confirmed on error. Error. Target coordinates do not match intended destination. Panic erupted in the control chamber as technicians realized something was wrong. The targeting display showed not Sol System, but the heart of Council space. Kethmore Prime, Veltar Central, the core worlds of galactic civilization, all locked in the Genesis. Array's deadly crosshairs. Override! Override! Veltaran shrieked, his crystalline form blazing with terror. Abort firing sequence! Unable to comply, the ancient system replied with mechanical certainty. Safety protocols prevent targeting modification during final. Countdown, 10 seconds to firing. High Admiral Thesakari realized the scope of the disaster with horrible clarity. The humans, they've infiltrated the array. They've turned our own weapon against us. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Genesis Array firing. The weapon discharged with the power of a collapsing star, its energy beam racing across interstellar space toward the targets that Agent Wu Jin had programmed. The first strike hit Veltar Central, the crystal cities of the galaxy's oldest democracy vanishing in an instant of nuclear fire. Kethmore Prime followed seconds later. The council chambers, the ancient libraries, the accumulated wisdom of 50,000 years of galactic civilization, all reduced to expanding clouds of superheated gas. One by one, the council's homeworlds died. Noraxis with its floating sky gardens, Thessamora with its underwater metropolises, Zenthari Prime with its continent-spanning cities, the Genesis Array, designed to protect galactic civilization, methodically destroyed its creators. President. Yunji's voice echoed across every communication frequency in the galaxy as the ancient worlds burned. You taught us that mercy is weakness. You showed us that in this galaxy only strength matters. You demonstrated that when facing an existential threat, any action is justified. The transmission continued as rescue ships fled the dying council. Worlds, their holds filled with the few survivors of the greatest disaster in galactic history. Thank you for the lesson. You have created the very monster you sought to destroy. Trillions died in the Genesis Array's rampage. The oldest civilizations, the most advanced cultures, the guardians of galactic peace and order, all victims of their own ultimate weapon. The irony was bitter and perfect. The galaxy watched in absolute terror as humanity demonstrated their willingness to commit genocide on an unprecedented scale. Not just the destruction of enemy fleets or the sterilization of military targets, but the complete annihilation of entire civilizations. Agent Wu Jin, his mission complete, walked calmly through the chaos of Kethmore Prime's death throes. His extraction ship waited in orbit, ready to carry him home to a galaxy where humanity now stood unopposed. This is what you taught us, he whispered, watching ancient spires collapse in the distance. This is what happens when you corner a predator species and try to exterminate their children. The Genesis Array finally powered down, its terrible work complete. 7 homeworlds lay in ruins. The Galactic Council existed only as scattered refugees fleeing through space. The galaxy's oldest and most powerful civilizations had been reduced to cosmic dust. Humanity had learned the galaxy's final lesson. When facing extinction, any weapon was justified. Any tactic was acceptable. Any level of destruction was permissible. The Council had taught humanity to be monsters. Now they would live with the consequences of their education. The massive command ship supremacy drifted in the ruins of what had once been Kethmore Prime. Through the observation deck windows, the debris of an ancient civilization tumbled slowly through space. Fragments of crystal spires, chunks of floating gardens, the scattered remains of libraries that had preserved knowledge for 50,000 years. President Yunji stood before the assembled survivors of the Galactic Council, her simple black uniform a stark contrast to the ornate robes and exotic forms of the alien representatives. These beings, whose species had ruled the galaxy for millennia, now knelt before a human leader whose civilization was barely a century old. Former Council Speaker Veltaran, his crystalline form cracked and dim, spoke in tones of absolute defeat. We surrender unconditionally. We accept whatever terms humanity chooses to impose. The words echoed through the chamber, broadcast live to every surviving world in the galaxy. The most powerful beings in known space, ancient species that had toppled empires and reshaped star systems, groveled for mercy before creatures they had once dismissed as primitive barbarians. Admiral Hyun Woo stood beside the president, his uniform bearing decorations from a dozen victorious battles. The man who had witnessed the massacre at Nexus Prime now commanded the largest fleet in galactic history. 5,000 human warships surrounded the ruins of the Council worlds, their weapons trained on anything that might threaten the new order. The terms are simple, President Yunji announced, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. Complete and unconditional surrender of all remaining alien military forces. Immediate cessation of all weapons production. Full disclosure of technological databases and research facilities. She activated a holographic display showing the treaty document that would reshape galactic civilization. Human governors will be appointed to oversee all former Council territories. Alien populations will be relocated as necessary to serve the needs of human expansion. Resistance will be met with extermination. The surviving alien leaders had no choice but to agree. Their fleets lay scattered across the galaxy as burning wreckage. Their homeworlds were dead, reduced to cosmic dust by their own ultimate weapon. Their populations survived only at human sufferance. High Admiral Theskari, once commander of the greatest military force in galactic history, signed the surrender documents with trembling appendages. How did we underestimate you so completely? President Yunji smiled without warmth. You assumed that because we were young, we were weak. You thought that because we valued peace, we were incapable of war. You believed your own propaganda about civilized behavior and moral superiority. Dr. Hyajin stepped forward from the human delegation, her research files containing the biological profiles of every known alien species. You forgot that humans are adaptable predators. We learn. From our enemies, we take their strengths and exploit their weaknesses. The galaxy's new reality became clear as human administrators took control of the surviving alien worlds. Governor Dalsu arrived on Zenthari Secondary with a fleet of transport ships filled with human colonists. The elegant crystal cities that had housed alien philosophers for millennia were converted into administrative centers for human expansion. Zenthari citizens will be relocated to designated residential zones, he announced to the surviving alien population. Your industrial facilities will be retooled for human needs. Your educational systems will teach human languages and values. The proud Zenthari, masters of energy manipulation and quantum physics, found themselves reduced to manual laborers in their own cities. Their children attended schools where human teachers explained the new order of galactic civilization. On Veltar Tertiary, Commander So Young oversaw the conversion of alien research facilities into human weapons laboratories. The advanced technology that had taken the Veltari centuries to develop became the foundation for even more devastating human military systems. Their quantum computer networks are remarkably sophisticated, she reported to Earth Command. We're adapting their processing power for our strategic planning systems. They'll help us identify any remaining pockets of resistance. The galaxy's communication networks, once managed by neutral artificial intelligences, now carried human oversight protocols. Every message, every data transfer, every attempt at interstellar coordination was monitored by Intelligence Director Mi Ran's expanding surveillance apparatus. Agent Kai Te, his deep cover mission complete, emerged from his false identity to become human administrator of the former Noraxis system. The floating cities that had been marvels of alien engineering were modified to serve as orbital factories for human starships. Production efficiency is ahead of schedule, he reported. The alien workers are adapting to human management techniques. Fear is an excellent motivator. The transformation was methodical and complete. Alien art was removed from public spaces, replaced by human sculptures and paintings. Alien languages disappeared from official documents, supplanted by human tongues. Alien holidays were abolished, their celebrations replaced by commemorations of human victories. President Yunji toured the ruins of Kethmore Prime aboard the survey vessel Conquest, documenting the complete destruction of the galaxy's oldest civilization. The crystal archives that had preserved the wisdom of ages were now silent graveyards floating in space. Dr. Hai Jin walked through the shattered remains of the Council's grand library, her boots crunching on fragments of data crystals that had once contained the collected knowledge of 100 species. She knelt to examine a broken display case, its contents scattered like ancient bones. Ironic, she murmured, placing a small earth tree seedling among the ruins. They accumulated all this knowledge, but they never learned the most important lesson. Predators don't stop hunting just because their prey builds prettier cages. The seedlings' roots would grow deep into the alien soil, fed by the ashes of galactic civilization. In time, earth trees would cover this world, their branches reaching toward stars that now belong to humanity. The Treaty of Sol was signed in the ruins of the Council chambers, its terms broadcast to every surviving world. The document was simple in its brutality. Humanity now ruled the galaxy by right of conquest. Alien species existed only at human discretion. Former civilizations that had spanned star systems were reduced to reservation worlds under human supervision. Their populations, once numbering in the trillions, survived as laborers and servants in the new galactic order. The galaxy's children learned human languages in schools built on the graves of their former masters. They studied human history, human values, human achievements. Their own cultural heritage became forbidden knowledge, preserved only in classified human archives. Admiral Hyunwoo stood on the command deck of the Supremacy, watching human ships patrol the former borders of alien empires. The fleet that had once protected Earth now enforced humanity's dominion over countless worlds. Status report, he requested from his aide. All former Council territories are under human administration, Captain Young-soo replied. Resistance movements on 14 worlds have been eliminated. Alien population compliance is at 97%. And the remaining 3%? Being dealt with through Dr. Hai Jin's biological warfare protocols. Estimated time to full. Compliance, 6 months. The conversation was routine now, just another administrative detail in the management of a galactic empire. The extinction of entire species had become a matter of bureaucratic efficiency. President Yunji's final address to the galaxy was broadcast from the rebuilt chambers where the Galactic Council had once met in peaceful deliberation. The seats that had held representatives from hundreds of worlds now hosted only human officials and carefully selected alien collaborators. The galaxy has learned its lesson, she announced, her words carrying to every inhabited world under human control. Mercy is weakness, Trust is foolishness. Only strength matters. Only the ruthless survive. She gestured toward the observation windows, where human ships patrolled the space lanes that had once carried alien trade. You taught us these truths when you betrayed our diplomats and murdered our people. We have simply become better students than you were teachers. The broadcast ended with images of human colonies spreading across former alien worlds, human children playing in parks where alien monuments once stood, human flags flying over cities that had housed civilizations for millions of years. The galaxy's apex predators had claimed their rightful place at the top of the food chain. The older races had wanted to teach humanity about consequences and limitations. Instead, they had created the very monsters that would replace them. Earth's ruthless revenge was complete. The galaxy would never again underestimate the species that learned to hunt among the stars. In the end, the Galactic Council's greatest fear had come to pass. Humanity had indeed become too powerful to control. But by the time they realized their mistake, it was far too late to correct it. The predators had evolved. The prey had learned their place, and the galaxy would never be the same.